Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Kiff Workshop. Today, as you can see from the bonnets being open and everything, I was checking the levels, so I thought what better day to actually do a video on the weekly checks you should be doing on your car. I thought we'd start with the Shogun, mainly because this one being an auto, it's actually got a couple of things on it that some of the others won't have. So yeah, let's get into that now. Obviously, the main ones are your water. Never ever open this side when it's hot. This system, as you can see, has actually got a pipe that comes from the top of the radiator. 90% of the cars that come with it come with this sort of cap. If you follow this over to here, this is what they call your expansion tank. And if you rub it down, you can actually see, my one actually says full on it. If you're a bit unsure, you can wobble it back and forth a bit until you can see the level moving. But you can see mine's on full, which is brilliant. If your car doesn't have one of these and it has this type, always do this when it's cold. But it's usually a quarter of a turn or just over. And you can check to make sure that your coolant is in there. If you're stuck in a bit of a bind, you can use water to top it up. Say if you're stuck from somewhere you needed to get it home or to your garage, you can use water. But then obviously if you're in a country that freezes, like the UK in the winter, if your antifreeze hasn't got good enough concentration in there, you could find that it end up doing damage to your engine if it actually freezes. So it's always better to put antifreeze in there and nothing else if you can. Another one on this one is actually quite hard to get to, but is the screen wash. Also on a screen wash, on most cars you will have this symbol to tell you that is what it's for. And again, water can just go in there, but again in the colder climates it will freeze, so you'll find your squirties won't work in the morning on a cold morning if you don't put some sort of screen wash additive in there just to stop it from freezing up in the winter weathers. Right, the next important one, another one that all cars have got, would be your engine oil. And you can see this one's been off-road a little bit. A lot of cars, some of the Japanese stuff will actually say oil on them. It's not 710, even if the cap is the other way around, like some people, like I've seen some things said on the line. You always have a cap like that where the oil goes into, but to check the oil you always have a dipstick. Excuse the oil leak, that'll be a later video, that fix. But what you always need to do is make sure your car is sitting on some level ground and has been idle for at least 10 minutes since it was last run. You take it out, use any piece of rag you can to wipe off the excess oil off of your dipstick. And as you can see, you'll always have a minimum and a maximum mark on your dipstick. This one is just two cutouts. Some cars you'll have a line. Some of the German stuff you have actually a cross-hatch section which is actually scribed onto the dipstick itself. But this one's a nice easy one. It's got two sort of ridges cut out of it. So then what you do is just put it down in there, leave it for a second, I always do, and then just pull it out. As you can see, my oil is up to the max mark there, which is fantastic. Cars, the next one I was going to talk about is one you would have on older cars, not necessarily on some of the newer stuff with electronic power steering. On the older stuff where you had hydraulic, you would have hydraulic power steering fluid. On this car, it's up here. And again, just like the oil, this one's actually got power steering written on it. On some of the other cars, you may have a symbol. On some cars like my BMW, you won't actually have anything. It will just be like a sort of reservoir with oil in it. But what most of them have, again, is a very similar thing to the dipstick. This one actually has minimum and maximum written on it. Same sort of thing, leave the car idle, don't do this with the engine running. Put that back in. I always like to push it all the way down and pull it back out. As you can see, actually, if anything, mine is just a hair over the max, so that was okay. Then further back in the engine bay on this one, another one which almost all cars, well, every car has got, sorry, is brake fluid. Every car since the beginning has had brake fluid, so that one to start with. On most cars, you will find that they've got a semi-see-through bottle. My one is quite hard to see where the level is, so I have actually found it easier to take this lid off so that I could actually see how much fuel fluid is in there, and as you can see, that's right up near the top, so that's absolutely fine. It's also quite nice and clean. You don't want that fluid to be black or creamy or anything like that could show signs of water, so that is absolutely fine. And again, you usually find that these will have some sort of writing on it. And another thing a lot of people ask me is .3, .4, .5, what does that mean on there? Well, most modern cars, actually I think probably about 99% of the modern cars all come with what they call .4 brake fluid, which actually, it kind of stands for the chemical makeup of the fluid and sort of the boiling point of the fluid. Some people opt to go up to .5, but unless you're using a sort of track car, high performance car, then there's no real need, because that's got a higher boiling point. But most modern cars they all come with .4 really. .3 is quite an old sort of thing that's not compatible with most of today's vehicles. But also a lot of the time as well, you'll find on modern cars that have hydraulic clutches, they will have a separate little tiny reservoir which will come from this, and you'll find the brake fluid reservoir feeds the clutch. But again, you don't have to worry about that as long as the level's okay in here. You don't need to worry about your clutch level on most cars. And then this is the thing I was on about earlier. This is the only car on my driveway with this on, is the second dipstick, which is what you might have been asking yourself about before. This one is actually for the automatic transmission. On this car, it's a very similar thing to the oil on the engine, but this car is a very different way to check it. Again, you actually have 3 cutouts on this one. You've got minimum, maximum cold, maximum hot, which is the next one up. But the way to actually test this one, because if you actually check the level whilst it's sat here idle, it will actually tell me that it's overfilled, but it's actually not. It's I'll pull this back out now. Yeah, if you look, it looks overfilled, but it's actually not, because the way you actually check these gearbox levels on the Mitsubishi Shoguns is you have to do it with the engine running. So I would suggest, if you haven't got a dipstick there, you don't need to worry about it, because I know the BMWs do seal for life units, so you don't need to check that, or you need a specialist equipment to check it. And one thing I wanted to say is just how important it is that you get the right fluids for your vehicle as well. Don't just chuck anything in there. When it comes to antifreezes, these ones, if you've got orange or red, they can mix, but if you've got green or blue, they cannot mix with orange or red. Green and blue can mix, orange or red can mix, but you should never mix blue with orange or green with red or anything like that, because that can actually damage your cooling system, and it can actually cause it to congeal as well inside of the whole system. Another one as well is power steering fluid. You want to make sure you've got the right one there. There's usually 2 different types to look at as well. You can usually tell what you need from what you can see in your actual reservoir. As you've possibly seen in mine, it's red in here. It's red in a lot of the cars, but there are some cars with, like some of the Vauxhalls, they use a specific green power steering fluid, which is actually, if you mix that with the red again, it can cause it to congeal and actually damage things like the electric motor and cause a big garage bill. Same with your engine oil. It's best to look in your customer's owner's manual, just in case if you're ever unsure. A couple of bonus things to keep your eye on as well, something that I always just glance over if I've never got my bonnet up, is the belts is one. Here's one of them there. As you can see the ribs are nice there and everything like that. You should be checking these parts here for any cracks or anything like that. As you can see, this belt is actually quite new, and most belts with a tension, you shouldn't really be able to turn them much more than 90 degrees like that. That's how you can check the tension by rule of thumb. This has got adjustable, like manually adjustable tension on it. The E46 behind me, that's a spring-loaded tensioner, so the tension isn't something you're going to have to worry about on that per se. Another thing, if we close this bonnet, so I can get in there. Another thing I do when I'm closing bonnets as well is, rather than slamming it down or letting it down like that and then pushing it down, because you can actually dent the bonnet, is I lift it up to a certain level, let it down like that, and you're not putting any pressure on that panel then, so you're less likely to put fingerprint dents in the car if it's a prize possession. Another thing I always check, just the wipers. I mean, you'll know if they're bad on your screen, because there'll be streak marks like that one on there, because I need to change these. But also another thing you can do, run your thumb along the bottom, make sure they're not actually starting to split where the wiper joins the main bit. If you've got any splits on there, they definitely need to be changed straight away. So after you've checked all your levels, the next thing is tyre pressures, which is why I've got this one out. On a lot of cars, one thing a lot of people don't realise as well is the tyre pressures are not just in the handbook, but they can also be around your car in certain places. Some are in the fuel filler cap. This one on my Mitsubishi Shogun is actually down here in the driver's sort of door jamb. And also sometimes you have to look at the tyre size, which can be found on the tyre itself, and it should give you the actual sort of tyre pressure. My BMW is in the same place, so is my wife's. Some of the Vauxhalls on the fuel filler cap, but you also find some of the other Japanese cars will be on the passenger side door, and also some of the cars that are made in other countries where they're originally left-hand drive will be on the passenger door as well. So, but I thought I would get out this pressure tester, because this is very similar to most of the ones you'll find in your local garage, which has got this push-on end on it. So what I'll do, forgive me if this is like teaching your grandmother to suck eggs, but just in case you are unsure, as you saw the tyre size on the door, there is actually a tyre size here. The 245 is actually how wide the tyre is in millimetres. The 70 is the size of the sidewall, but not in millimetres, but by the percentage of the width of it. So that is 70% of 245. And then the R16 is the rim diameter, so this is 16 inches. And then the 107H is the speed rating, which a lot of the time isn't something you have to worry much about. It's something that they tend to look at when you take your car to your local tyre fitter. But to check the tyre pressures in there, it's quite simple. You just find the valve. You've usually always got a cap on them like that. Just unscrew that. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. Then this type of pressure tester, you just push on like that. This one's showing me that this has actually got 28 psi in it, so it's got about 1.8, 1.9 bar in there, you can see from there. And that's how you do it. And then to put this back on, it's just clockwise until it's tight. One thing I would like to say as well is one thing I would steer clear of if you are looking at modifying your car is the metal valve caps. They have a tendency to weld themselves to there. So one thing I wanted to point out with these tyre pressures as well is you'll notice you've got A, B, C, D on this one. A lot of the others you won't know what it is, but it tells you what they are down here for towing and other things. But if you've got your car which has got a full load in it, you'll find you have to adjust your tyre pressures accordingly to suit, just to prevent things like blowouts and things like that on the motorway or on long runs. So after your levels and your tyre pressures, another thing I like to check weekly is my bulbs. This is a lot easier with two people, as we're about to demonstrate, but obviously you can do it yourself if you wanted to. Actually, in this instance, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it solo just to show you, so you're not having to worry. I mean, obviously it's better to have somebody outside the truck or outside your vehicle, so you can put different lights on and they can shout back yes or no, or you've got that one out or this one out and things like that. But what you can actually do inside your own car, and what I like to do, is I will put my side lights on, my hazard lights, my fog lights, and then just any other lights you could think of at the time, but that knocks most of them out of the park then, so you can have a quick walk around. Maintenance. All cars will be the same as this way, you don't have to worry this to show them, but as you can see, you always have a side repeater, whether it be it on your wing or on your mirror, it's up to you. I usually walk around in a clockwise motion and start off on the driver's side and work my way around. Have a look in there, you can see the side lights on, the front fogs are on, so that's okay. Fog. Oh yes, you can actually see the side lights actually out in this one, so this is one that I need to get replaced after this video. Indicator again, indicator, you walk around the back. Again, as you can see here, you've got indicator, side lights, then you've got, I always put my hand under here to check the number plate bulbs. On my car, again, fog lights are down here in the bumper, but again, that's somewhere different on 99% of cars. On my BMW, it's in the boot lid. On the Corsa bit to the side of me, it's actually in the bottom of the lamp cluster. Again, it depends on what vehicle you've got, but you might have to look into it. But you can, if you get stuck, you can always turn the fog lights off and come back and see which ones are still on. There's another thing you can do. But now I've done the front side lights. I'll put dip beam on. One you mostly drive with. Come back around to the front to check. As you can see, the dip beam is on. And I'll do the same again with main beam. Again, as you can see, they're on. So we know that all bulbs are correct in my car so far, except for two of the main ones. One which is brakes, which is one you see 90% people going around with. If they've got a bulb, that would be the brake light bulb. And the other one is reverse. If you haven't got somebody else to check them, obviously you don't want to you can put your car into reverse and leave the ignition on with the engine not running, which is one way you can check reverse. But another way you can do it, which is what I'm going to show you now, is turn this off. If you've got somewhere like I have, luckily, with a wall behind it, you can do this as easy at the dark, but reverse your vehicle right the way up to it. Then you should be able to see, as I can on the wall behind me, you can see light up on this side, I can see light up on that side through my passenger side mirror, and at the night time you should be able to see through your back window your high vis light or your high level light up as well. Also you can do the same with your reverse. I can see that the reverse is lit up the wall behind me there. It has also on the other side as well, so bar my front left side light, everything on this car is okay.